All right, so now let's take a look at working with these fractions and getting an equivalent fraction, which would basically just be reducing. But I do want to show you something on the calculator real quick too. So right now I have the percentage, I have the fraction, okay? And know that your calculator can help you to actually do the decimal as well. So if I have 25 over 100, remember that the fraction line is just another way of saying division. So 25 divided by 100, it's going to show you that decimal equivalent, 0.25, which remember was what we were just doing with our percentages. So it kind of brings you full circle. So the calculator is actually a really nice way to just kind of make sure that you were doing this right, okay? That it should match up. All right, reducing. So reducing is all about division. Back when you first learned about reducing fractions, you guys would talk about, what's the biggest number that you can put into both of them, okay? And what I'm going to tell you is, if you're like trying to reduce a fraction or you're trying to do this in your daily life, you're probably not going to sit there forever and just think about, factors or numbers that go into those. You're just going to reduce it down, okay? So if I start with something, I'm going to give you a different example for a second, then I'll come back to these. So let's say I have something like, let me pick one that's not on here. How about 60 over 100? Okay, there's some tricks that I would do. So if I was just trying to figure this out and I don't want to write it down, I don't want to play around on a calculator, in my head I'm saying, all right, well 60 over 100, they both have a 0 at the end, so I'm going to knock those off. All right, so now I'm down to 6 over 10. Zero trick is a really good one, okay? Now, 6 over 10, well, those are easy to cut in half, both of them. So half of 6 is 3, and half of 10 is 5. Okay, can I do anything else with that? No. I can't take half of 3. I can't take half of 5, so I'm pretty much good, right? That's reduced. So the zero trick is really, really cool. Watch for that, okay? So I always think about, can I cut it in half easily? Is there a number that I can divide by easily? So I usually check even numbers. I can divide those by 2. If I can't divide by 2, sometimes I try to divide by 3. Numbers that divide by 5 are usually kind of easy to recognize. Numbers that divide by 10 are kind of easy to recognize. So I would go through those. And then if you get stuck, fine, go to the calculator. But otherwise, you could probably divide those out pretty quick. Okay, so in 17, I have 25 over 100. I'm not going to sit here and think about things that are biggest and go into it. I just noticed right away that this kind of deals with money. That's what comes to my mind at first, like 25. I always think 25 cents. 100 would be like $1. So there's 1 quarter for 25, and there's 4 quarters and $1. So this is going to be a fourth. Okay, now this is one of those common ones that you should know, I hope, that 25% is the same as 1/4. Now, if that didn't come right to your head again, maybe you divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5, 100 divided by 5 is 20, and then 5 over 20 would then eventually go down to 1/4. So you take as many steps as you need to make it easy, okay? 18, I'd probably do the zero trick first, so knock those off. So now I'm down to 7 over 10. All right, well, this is odd, this is even. So I can't divide them both by 2. Remember, any even number can be divided by 2. And I can't divide by 3 either. 7 over 10, I'm pretty much done, okay? 7 is what we call a prime number. You don't have to know that, but it's kind of helpful to recognize prime numbers because once you get to a prime number, you're pretty much stuck. You're not going to be able to reduce that any further, okay? All right, number 19, I have 93 over 100. So 93 is odd, which means I can't divide by 2. Maybe I try to divide by 3. I could do 93 divided by 3, but I can't do 100 divided by 3, which makes me feel kind of stuck, okay? Now, you might go to the calculator and play around and try to get this and that to work, but you're going to keep getting stuck. So that's it, okay? That's reduced. All right, 58 over 100. Both even numbers. So if they're both even, I'm just going to take half. So half of 58, which if you need to go to the calculator, go ahead. Half of 58 is the same as dividing by 2. So 58 divided by 2 is 29. So I've got 29 over, and half of 100 is 50. All right, so now I'm down to an odd number and an even number. So I can't divide by 2 anymore. Divide by 3, nope, that's going to give me a decimal if I try that, and so is that. And I can't think of anything else, so that's pretty good. All right, 21 is another one of those common ones, I hope, but if you needed to, knock off your zeros. We're down to 5 over 10. 5 is half of 10, so that's a half. All right, 66.6 repeating. Okay, this one's kind of weird, but if you actually try it on here, 66.6. See how it's a bunch of 6s? Okay, 6s are even numbers, aren't they? So if I divided this by 2, 66.6, which I know there's tons of 6's there, that's what repeating means, okay? But if you divide that by 2, it's just going to keep repeating, so I could still do it. So if I divide that by 2, I'm at 33.3 repeating. 100 divided by 2 is 50. All right, well, they're not even anymore, so I can't do that. I could divide by 3, but I can't divide 50 by 3, so that's pretty much it, okay? And that would kind of get you stuck. This is one of those common ones, and that's why I'm starring this one, that this can go down further. But if you only try to do this with the calculator and with division, it's kind of going to be tough to get there, okay? If you go back to that common list that I showed you, repeating decimals, there's a couple of those that you should really know. So here's one of them. That's your 1/3, okay? And here's another one. That's your 2/3. Thirds are tough to work with on the calculator. They're just ugly. All right, so you want to remember that a third is 33.3 repeating, and 2/3 would then be 66.6 repeating. So it's tough to get that to reduce as a fraction, but you need to remember that it's the same as saying 2/3. So I'm actually going to bring that down all the way to 2/3. Okay, those are tricky. All right, 20/100, 0 rules. So now I'm down to 2/10, both even. So half of 2 is 1, and half of 10 is 5. So I'm down to 1/5. 80/100, 0 rules. 8/10, both even. Half of 8 is 4, and half of 10 is 5. Done. All right, 71/100, not even. So I'm kind of stuck by dividing by 2. I'm going to try dividing by 3, but again, the problem is 100 is not divisible by 3, so that's going to bring me to another ugly answer. I can't think of anything that goes into 71. So again, I could play around on my calculator, but I think I'm pretty much stuck there. All right, 30/100, 0 rule. I'm down to 3/10. Odd, even, so can't divide by 2. Again, this is not divisible by 3, so stuck. All right, 3/10. Now, I'm going through the whole 2, 3s, 5s, 10s things because right now we're looking at everything over 100 because we were talking about percentages, right? But you are going to need to get to fractions where you're not dealing with these nice, pretty denominators or bottom numbers of 100. So think about that always. 0 rules. Are they even? Are they odd? So think about 2s and 3s, and then think about dividing by 5s and 10s. And if you can do that, then you take as many of these reducing steps as you need to until you eventually get to a point where you cannot reduce anymore. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to have you do kind of like a little you try. So I'm going to have you try these 2 activities. You're welcome to do the creative corner if you want, but obviously I'm not there to share these with you. But try activity 1, try activity 2, and then you can come back and make sure that you've got this.